in order to connect deeply with a horse, and everyone out there who works with horses will know that you can walk up and catch a horse and the horse will comply most of the time. And they will, they'll go, yeah, okay.
Hello and welcome to the Biohackher Podcast. I'm Azra and Sharon, your host and founder of Biohackher. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach specializing in longevity for women, a health and wellness journalist, writer, corporate consultant, and a biohacking advocate. Biohacker is a space where we can explore ways to optimize our health to live well longer. Whether it's through improving our nutrition, exercising, cryotherapy, supplementation, technology, and more, I'll be bringing you information and interviews with the best longevity experts to help you understand what you can do to optimize your health, prevent disease, and slow down or even reverse the symptoms of aging by taking control of your unique bio-individuality. Want to know more? Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Biohacker Podcast. As some of you might know, I'm not only a podcast host, but also an integrative nutritional health coach. As part of my mission to help women live well longer, I'm excited to share that I have launched my first Biohacker product, my Good Gut Granola. I created this recipe after navigating my own gut health issues and struggled to find healthy breakfast options that didn't taste like cardboard. My cranberry and walnut granola is gluten-free and vegan, and each ingredient has been specifically chosen because of its science-backed ability to support longevity. And I haven't compromised on taste to achieve a healthy granola. But I apologize in advance because once you start eating, you will become addicted. It's that Moorish. It's now available for my Australian listeners, and you can purchase it online from www.biohack-her.com, where you can also download a free copy of my ebook, Biohacker Live Well Longer, a beginner's guide to biohacking for women to optimize your health. Hey guys, before we jump into the next episode, I wanted to take a quick moment of your time to tell you about the next Live Well Longer retreat that I'll be co-hosting with Camilla Thompson. If you've been feeling the pull to pause, reset, and reconnect with the woman you're becoming, then this is your moment. Join us for the next Live Well Longer retreat, which will be held from the 1st to the 6th of May in 2026 at the beautiful Reviva Resort in Bali. This isn't just a holiday. It's a transformational experience designed to help you reset your biology, restore your balance, and reimagine what aging well truly means. Across 6 days, you'll immerse yourself in restorative practices, nourishing food, movement, workshops, deep rest, and soul-level connection with a community of like-minded women who are all committed to living well longer. It's the kind of retreat that stays with you long after you return home. The clarity, the shifts, the confidence, the reconnection to your healthiest, most grounded self. If you're ready to invest in your well-being and step into a new chapter feeling renewed and inspired, I'd love you to join us. Register your interest now at livewelllongerretreats.com. Spots are limited. Now on to the podcast. Today on the Biohacker Podcast, I'm joined by one of Australia's most respected and soulful leaders in wellness, Sharon Kolkka, a pioneer, speaker, and co-author of How to Be Well and also the upcoming book, Hormonal Harmony. With more than 4 decades shaping the wellness landscape, Sharon has been the quiet force behind some of Australia's most iconic destinations, from Gwingana and the Golden Door to Peninsula Hot Springs and Hayman Island, designing programs that have transformed tens of thousands of lives. But what makes Sharon so compelling is not just her deep expertise in resilience, stress physiology, and conscious leadership. It's her ability to weave science with soul. In this episode, we dive into her extraordinary work in equine empowerment, a powerful, intuitive modality where horses become mirrors, guides, and partners in emotional clarity, nervous system regulation, and authentic human connection. It's wellness that bypasses the thinking mind and speaks straight to your biology. If you've ever wondered why we feel calmer around horses, how our bodies communicate beyond words, or what animals can teach us about presence, leadership, and self-awareness, you're going to love this conversation. So settle in. This is a deeply grounding, heart-opening exploration of the wisdom that lives not just within us, but around us. Hey, Sharon, welcome to the Biohackher Podcast.
Oh, Azra, I'm so excited.
You and I both. I've been so looking forward to this conversation because, as you and I have discussed offline, we're both passionate horse lovers. So This is going to be a fun chat today.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, look, absolutely. I just think that the work that you do in equine therapy is so powerful, and I really wanted to do a deep dive into that today. But for anyone new to it, what exactly is equine therapy and how does it differ from traditional therapy or coaching?
It's a really good question. So it depends on the type of equine therapy that you would engage in. So there's lots of different forms. Essentially, you've got, I suppose, hippotherapy, which is essentially riding for the disabled, where you're looking at placing children with horses or even on horses, or disabled people onto horses. And it helps them with balance and postural control, their core strength, because the gait of the horse actually mimics the walking of a human. Yeah. And there's some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work done in that area. And I haven't really dived into it too much, but I know that there is some incredible work being done there. So that's sort of like the hippotherapy sort of segment. Then you come to the two streams that I'm sort of more familiar with, which is what I would call equine-assisted therapy. And that's where you have a therapist who is trained, who would be a counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. It could even be, in some cases, a journey practitioner. And they are trained in mental health and emotional well-being. And what they're doing is they're using the horse as part of the conversation and part of the therapy session. So rather than sitting in a room and just, talking to a person, you're out in a paddock with a herd of horses. You've got nature all around you. And the people who do this, who are very dedicated to it, and I have a friend who's a psychiatrist who does it, and she said, often when I'm doing the work, it takes me a few minutes, it might take me 10 or 20 minutes to actually dive in and get the trust and have the interaction and build the connection. But she said the moment we walk into the horse paddock, we're there, because the horses bring that connection immediately, because there's such curiosity about, there's horses. So The horses build that connection between the therapist and the client or the patient or whoever is there. But that is done with someone who's trained in mental health or emotional well-being. And then the type that I love to do is more equine-assisted learning. And what that means is we're using nonverbal communication, we're exploring the nervous system regulation, we're exploring coherence, and we're exploring how the human is relating to themselves, how the horse is reading how that human is, whether they're regulated in their nervous system or not regulated in their nervous system. And of course, you and I both know that thoughts change our nervous system regulation, our perceptions change our nervous system regulation. And then also you've got the whole new environment of, I have a 500 kilo animal potentially here, and I'm all of a sudden a bit nervous about this if I've never been around horses before. So it really gives a human an opportunity to sort of be more aware of what's going on for them. And then really our story in this is looking at, if you want to change something in the horse, you need to change something in the human. Yeah. So the work that I love to do is more about self-connection, self-regulation. And for me, longevity does not coexist with cortisol and elevated adrenaline loops. So it's
really?
Yeah, it's high levels of cortisol. I'm not talking about natural circadian rhythm, but it's helping people understand how to regulate.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that, do they? That they're even sitting with high cortisol levels because that's just their way of being all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what I found through working in health retreats for, 30-something years now, is that we're so used to being in the parasympathetic mode. We're so used to being on, getting things done, that we don't understand that our natural state is calm and relaxed. So if we look at our closest cousins, the chimpanzees, who, if you believe in this theory of evolution, are less than 1%, different from us in our DNA. Most of their day is chilling out. But we humans, no, we got to get things done. So we need to do that, but we also need to understand that that's not our altered state. When we're doing that, we're moving into a flight and fight state. We're moving into a survival state. And so coming back to parasympathetic and natural state is important to train, I think, because I think we've lost the easy ability to flip backwards and forwards from one to the other that we should be doing more often.
Yeah, for sure. I know that I certainly struggle with that because you're just so in the left brain all the time and caught up in the doing brain and we're not being. But before we do a deep dive into that, which I certainly want to do, I want to unpick a little bit what first drew you to this line of work. Was it something personal? Was it a professional turning point that made you see their healing power? Or was it just your love of horses and you wanted to be around horses every day? Because that would be my driving factor.
It's actually all of that. So the journey began as a child where I was obsessed with horses and ponies and had them. So they've been a lifelong love for me. And then I started working in the wellness industry, started in the fitness industry, moved into health retreats in 95, and then became the architect of setting up Gwingana Lifestyle Retreat. I was on the ground for 2 years before we opened, creating the philosophies and building the programs. And what got me over the line to go and do that project with Tony DeLead, the owner, was that I needed a horse paddock for my horses to come and live there. And, I'm not coming unless I've got a horse paddock. And also, if he would allow me to explore the idea of equine therapy. So it was starting to become known, I suppose, or a little bit more familiar in Australia around about 2000. And I was starting to notice and starting to do some research because I was curious about it. Along the way, 25 years ago, I met a woman who changed the way that I was relating to my horses, I would say. I have a background of going to pony club and jumping and eventing and, competing and doing all that. And so I'd always sort of in some ways use the horses as a tool, even though I loved them. They had to perform. Yes. Whereas Angie Wicks, who we were just talking about earlier, she was doing things with her horses one day that I was sharing a paddock with her. And I was like, how on earth have you taught your horse to do that? And she started to really teach me the horse psychology and the herd dynamics. And that just gave me a whole different perspective on how horses relate to each other and then how humans and horses can relate. And then with the work that I was doing in stress management, it all kind of just all came together. So I put equine therapy into Gwingana in 2006 and had other people doing it, but always knowing when I resigned from the general manager role that I wanted to go and play in that space too. So here I am playing in that space. Not all the time. I don't have a lot of time to do it, but I actually do it. I love it. I do it for 4 hours a week.
Oh, yeah. Well, lucky you. I'm very envious because it's just such a cool thing to be able to do. Let's do a bit of a deep dive into how horses connect with humans. What are they feeling and how do they sense what humans are feeling as well? What is it within their nature that makes them to be able to do that and be such powerful mirrors?
Well, we're obviously different species, so we're humans and they're horses, but we're also a different kind of species because we're a predator. We have eyes on the front of our head. We hunt, we eat meat, and, we kind of focus, plan, and analyze. That's how we've evolved. Whereas horses are prey animals. So they are hunted. And so their world is about being 100% environmentally scanning their environment for any potential danger. And so they perceive and feel the world. And so they have this energetic sort of sensitivity that they automatically sense and feel us because their evolution and their very life depends on it. And even though we're working with domesticated horses and they're very used to having humans around them, a wild horse would not let us anywhere near them. They would, because they sense our blood pressure, they smell our cortisol, they smell our adrenaline, and they know when our nervous system is regulated and when it's not. So they sense us, they feel us, and in that way they act as a biofeedback mechanism, because in order to connect deeply with a horse, and you know, everyone out there who works with horses will know that you can walk up and catch a horse and the horse will comply most of the time, and they will, you know, they'll go, yeah, okay. But my interest lies in, does the horse want to approach me and connect with me, rather than me being the instigator of that. And so, you know, I encourage people to be in the paddock and change what's happening with them so the horse is interested to come in and investigate. And to do that, we almost need to, so it sounds really weird, but we need to be on a very energetic frequency that they feel comfortable with.
Is it true? I read somewhere, I can't remember where, but I read somewhere that energetically that they had this broader field of picking up on the electromagnetic field than what humans do. Is that correct?
Yeah, very much so. And humans have the same electromagnetic field. So HeartMath in the States did some really cool work. And they looked at every time our heart beats, it creates a pressure wave out that creates an electromagnetic field that goes around our body. That is the same or similar to what the Earth has. And that electromagnetic field is generally as wide as we are tall. Horses have a much bigger heart, so their electromagnetic field is a lot bigger. And then you'll find horses that are leaders of the herd leaders, have a bigger field again. They you know, are very sort of like, don't come in my space. So there's a lot of respect from the underlings. Sounds like that horse is a bully, but the herd leader is the horse that is the most calm and centered and confident. And the other horses need that horse to look after them. So yes, absolutely, we have this electromagnetic field. So when we get close to them, they sense that. And if it's not operating in the same frequency they're in, they just move away from it.
I was just thinking back to what you were saying about wild horses, and some years ago I went and did a couple of off-the-grid rides, and one of them was what they called the Man from Snowy River ride. It was in the New South Wales High Country.
On my bucket list. Oh, I'm so jealous. Oh, amazing.
You have got to do it, honestly. It was a bucket list ride for me to do as well, and along the way we came across wild brumbies, and I was just in tears because it was just such a magical moment. And exactly as you said, they stayed away from us, but they were following us. In actual fact, there was a young colt that had been kicked out of the herd that followed us along on his own for some kilometres, because he was quite curious to see, well, what are these people doing on these horses, and just following us along. And I remember coming out of the bush and cantering out onto the field up to Craig's hut, and just tears coursing down my face, because it was just such a dream come true, because it's one of my favourite movies, you know, for most horsey people. Yeah, it is. And it was just the most surreal experience, but I was absolutely fascinated and mesmerised by these magical brumbies and the pride that they had, but also the care that they had for each other. And as you highlighted, that the stallion, you know, the leader of the herd, was very protective of his girls and of the young ones, and kept them quite at a distance away from us.
And it's really interesting, because the stallion's job is to be the protector in the wild herd, and to go and you know, like if any dingoes come, they'll go and face them up. Yeah. But interestingly enough, they have a lead mare. And the lead mare will be the one that will take them to the best grass, the best water. She remembers where everything is. So if everything goes down, generally the lead mare will take the herd and the stallion will stay back to fight. So it's gorgeous. And I love your story, because what it sort of speaks to me of is when you've got a colt following you, he's looking for the leadership. And potentially one of your horses is a strong leader, and he was sensing that. And also, if all of the people riding the horses were regulated, he was sensing that as well. And he's like, well, I'm kicked out over there. I wonder if I can come and join over here. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, he was super sweet, super cute. It just sort of, you could just see him off to the side, just following us along in the forest. And I just thought, wow, look at him go.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they hear of equine therapy, think that they need to have experience with horses. But is that the case?
No. The vast majority of people that I see are curious. They've heard about it. They've been told they must do it. It's a must-do experience. And some of them even come and they're frightened and they say, my family loves horses and there's horses on the property, but I don't go near them because I'm scared. And I'd actually love to know more about it so that I can engage. And, you know, one of the loves that I have is watching that relationship with a horse develop between a human who's never met a horse before. And also the human that's scared of horses. And, you know, each horse is very different as to how, you know, they work with the human. So the most important thing about equine therapy is understanding the horses. So I would find it very difficult to work with horses that I don't know. I'd have to know the horses first because I read the horses and then I understand more about the human through the horse's perspective.
And just on that, does it have to be a particular type of horse or a particular breed of horse?
Good question. I'm sitting on a stool. Look,
that's suitable to this type of work.
I use quarter horses because they're like the Labrador of the horse world. You know, they're just that little bit more calm and settled. It doesn't mean to say that you can't have, you know, other horses. It's providing, I think it's the background of the horse, that the horse has not had any trauma, that the horse has been schooled in some form of natural horsemanship. So they understand signals, they understand a non-verbal communication between horses and humans that we develop, and that they're calm and confident. Then I think they're right. So, because obviously the number one thing is, you know, I always say to people when I go in, my number one role here is to be the safety officer. My number two role is to be the interpreter. And I have no idea what's going to unfold.
It's a bit of a mystery every single day.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery. And it's a magical, beautiful mystery. You would absolutely, Azra, you would just... You have to come and do it with me.
I will. I'm there. I'm 100% there. You know I will be, for sure. I wonder whether, is there any downside for the horses? Because that's where my mind goes straight away. Are the horses going to be okay? Because I know, hypothetically, you might go and hang out with some friends and somebody's going through a hard time and they do a bit of a download, and in that particular engagement might be a very one-way flow of energy, and you might walk away feeling quite heavy as a result of that engagement with that friend, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I wonder whether horses experience a similar feeling where they're like, oh God, that was a bit of overload of emotion that I had to work with that human today. Do you ever, I mean, it might sound like a really random question, but I'm curious as to whether you see that in.
It's such an important question. So the way that I work and the way that people I respect work, the actual therapy paddock is a separate paddock within their environment. So I just walk over and I open the therapy paddock, and the horses that want to come and work just go in there.
Yeah.
And then I close the therapy paddock, which is it's not terribly big, but it's not small either. And I just pop a halter. I ask them if they want to have a halter on. I just hold it and they'll put their nose in the halter, and I'll put the halter on. Then I don't have a lead rope and I just let them wander. And then I just walk in with the human and we just walk around into their spaces. So generally one of the horses will either choose the human, or sometimes the human will choose the horse. So in terms of the person having a download, and look, you know, there can be some really traumatic experiences, and probably the one that I witnessed that was the most powerful, I think, was a woman who something had happened to her, and I don't know what had happened to her because she could not say. Her culture was that she could not speak about it. There was so much shame. But she'd really deeply connected with one of the older horses, and I said, could you tell him And she said, yes, I could. So I walked away, so I was completely out of earshot. And she leant on this horse and she told him her story. And he just stood there and just held space for her. And she sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And then she completely regulated. So then I think, okay, what does the horse do with that? Well, what was interesting was the horse just walked away after she was regulated, after the session, and just rolled in the corner, just went over and rolled, got up, blew out, and just went on eating. So horses live in they live in the moment. They don't have a time traveling mind like we do.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, that person just dumped on me. Now I'm traumatized for the rest of the day. It just kind of doesn't work like that.
But I'm this for these horses.
But yeah, and we, also I think there's only so many hours a week that the horses should be working. And, the most important thing is they need to be a horse. I don't think it's going to work if you've got horses in stables and then you pull them out into a round yard and you put them into a stable and they're separated. For me, my understanding and what I really feel passionate about is they live in a herd, in a big paddock. They have their natural environment. They've got shade, they've got shelter, they've got water, they've got grass. And most of the time they are doing their own thing. And then when you open the gate and say, do you want to come in? And they come in, to me, I actually enjoy this. I actually like the human interaction. Yeah, and they all work very differently.
Yeah, I completely agree about the herd environment. Yeah. I think it's so important for horses.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't stable horses, but I think horses doing therapy work need to be a herd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walk us through what a session looks like and feels like.
So I prefer to work in a small group. So I'll take up to 4 people. And the reason why I do that is because I'm not diving deeply into emotion. I'm not a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist. So if emotion comes up, we will deal with it. We will allow it to naturally dissipate, which we can dive into if you want to go there, and we can talk more about that. But we don't dive into what was the cause of that emotion. We just allow the human to healthily emote. And so essentially 4 people will come. I'll do a safety briefing. I'll do a session around the psychology of the horse, how horses see the world, how they sense the world. We'll talk about safety. And then I'll invite one of them to come down and work with the horse one by one. So the people who are observing in a non-judgmental, I call it a sacred circle, that we've all come together, and we'll never probably all be together in this moment together again. So let's make it sacred. And they hold space as much, but they're able to give feedback on the shifts and the changes between the horse and the human as the session progresses for about 25 to 30 minutes. And so they're observing, and then the next person comes in and they give a bit of advice to the next person going in. What advice would you give them? And so we have conversations the whole way through. We get to talk about lots of different things, boundaries a lot. We get to talk about, stepping into your power. We get to talk about self-regulation. And so they observe and they get to be in the session. And so I'm with 4 people for about 3 to 4 hours. And during that time, there's, 2 to 3 horses in the paddock. And sometimes the horse chooses the human and sometimes the human chooses the horse. And sometimes the human will choose the horse and they'll start working, and another horse will come in and go, actually, no, this is my bit, and take over, which is really interesting. Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest transformations that you've seen happen? And is there anything that people specifically come for? Like, what are people seeking out of equine therapy?
I suppose because I do most of my work in a health retreat, people are there because they want to investigate their well-being. So they're already, on organic food, they're already on a circadian rhythm, and they're already having massages, and they're already doing exercise and those sorts of things. So when they're already on that journey, what they're interested in doing is diving deeper. We can use it as a form of meditation. We can use it as a visualization. In fact, the grounding process that I do to ground the human is very much a sensing, getting humans out of their mind and into their body. because I think our bodies have become the life support system for the agenda in our heads. And we need that. That's important. But we also need to flip it around and come into our body. So that's probably the biggest transformation that I see, regardless. I have a guy who's been back 7 times. He's actually, and 7 times because obviously you don't come to a health retreat every week. No. So over 7 years, I've seen him 7 times, and he's a psychiatrist. And he has been completely and utterly fascinated by the transformation that's happened within him, because he has so much knowledge, of course, about the human condition, but translating it into the felt experience was really big for him. And he's written a paper about it, which is really, really, really lovely. Adrenaline junkies who just think that, they just simply cannot calm down, all of a sudden are like, what is this that I'm feeling? I've never felt this before. I never knew that I could be this calm. I think probably if I was to use words, the thing that I hear the most is, I thought I was relaxed, but I didn't actually know what relaxation was. And deep connection, because when they get completely relaxed and really connected to the environment and in the moment, the connection they have with the horse is something that many people have never experienced in their life, even though they're married or whatever. The connection is so deep because it's so non-judgmental. The horse doesn't care who you are, what you do, what you look like. They only care how you're feeling. So the horse is very honest, and the horse won't interact unless you get there. So when you get there and the horse gives you that feedback and they do interact, it's a very big moment for a human. And I often see tears. Sometimes there's tears of joy. Sometimes there's tears of, I feel like I've just come home and I haven't been here. I've found my way. And I talk to them about, well, it's always been there, but you've just whippersnippered a path to get to that place. And the horses have helped you, whippersnipper a path, because that's the truth of who you are. And the horses have just been the bridge to help you.
Yeah, you mentioned that about meditation, that it's like meditating. And I know that whenever I ride, it's a form of meditation for me, 100%. Yeah. It's an opportunity for me to not think of anything else except just being with the horse.
Yeah. So we take that in equine therapy, exactly what you're talking about, but we get them to earth, feel the earth.
Yeah.
We get them to breathe with the trees, the whole idea that the trees are breathing out and we're breathing their gas and they're breathing in our gas, and so we're all connected. We get them to feel the wind, smell the smells, listen to the sounds, deeply listen as if they've never heard before. And it drops them very quickly, very deeply into a place that many, many people haven't been. And from that place, they become part of the environment. And that's how horses are all the time until they feel a threat. And then they go very quickly into flight and fight, as you know. But most of the time, they are 100% sensing, feeling everything, and completely aware and 100% chilled out in full awareness.
I don't think we can underestimate the power of this type of work and this type of healing. I remember when I was a teenager, and I grew up in a pretty tough home environment. There was domestic violence. And so my quarter horse that I had at the time, Sam, he was my escape. He was the one being on the planet that really helped me get through that tough time. And I remember after school, I would get on my bike, and he was adjusted some kilometres away, so it was about 3 k's away, and I'd get on the bike and I'd ride all the way out there after school, and not necessarily even to ride him, just to be with him. And we'd go out right up to the back paddock, and I just remember lying on the grass in the back paddock and him just, being right next to me and just holding space for me and being there, and, nudging and, breathing down on me, and just that connection that I had with him and his understanding of what I was going through at the time was so healing for me and really helped me get through that stage in my life. And so I can't overemphasize or recommend how powerful this type of connection and healing with horses is.
It's a really interesting, because I mirror your story. I had a very volatile home life, and the only place that I could be me was in the horse paddock. And so they accepted me for who I was, and I was able to be me.
Yeah.
And that was my safe place. It was my happy place, and it still is, whenever things get a bit, I've got a lot of boxes that I'm ticking around at the moment, a few things going on in my life. And it's just like I go into the horse paddock every morning and every afternoon and during the day. And if I just need a moment, I just sit on the earth and they come over.
Yeah.
But they tell me if I'm not there, because they just go, yeah, just cool down, chill out a bit, dude. I'm not coming anywhere near you until you chill out and calm down, So, yeah, but it's so, 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 so powerful because they are non-judgmental. And I'd like to touch on, because a lot of people will say, well, doesn't it work with dogs? It does, because dogs do come in, but dogs are predators. And dogs are also pack. They're looking for the leader of the pack. So, of course, you're or should be the leader of the pack. And so they're like, let me please you, oh, you're home. Hey, yay. Horses are like, are you calm? Are you confident? You relaxed? Yeah, I'm going to kind of stay over here and eat grass till you kind of, shift out of your doing mode and get into your feel this and be one with the environment. And once we get one with the environment, that's where we tap into source. That indescribable, intelligence that permeates everything, and we're able to find the truth of and the depth of who we are. So they really help us to remember that we're not doing things where we do that, but we need to be sensing, feeling, and being.
Mm. And I think in particular for those that suffer from stress or anxiety, or trauma, like I've experienced in my life. Do you do work in that space with horses, and if you do, or if you know how that works, can you explain how that can help somebody that might be experiencing that?
Most of the people that I see have some level of burnout, stress, or anxiety. One particular woman springs to mind who had struggled with anxiety all of her life, and it was like her whole nervous system was like, it took her a little while. And what was interesting was the oldest horse came in for her, Jack, and he was just so kind. And Jack is, sort of, I talk about knowing the horse, Jack is incredibly sensitive. And so when he finds people that are adrenaline junkies, he's like, yeah, you're just a bit much for me, dude. But when he comes in to someone straight away, I know that person is really hypersensitive. So this particular lady with a lot of this anxiety, normally the horses would be like, yeah, but Jack came in because he sensed her deep sensitivity, which was driving her anxiety, because she'd never actually managed how sensitive that she was, and the world was actually just really loud for her. Right. So we worked through, creating some barriers around that, and using Jack as the ability to sort of use him to support her. And her husband came in at the end, and Jack was like literally wrapped around her, and like, okay, I'll tolerate you, husband, but I'm here in total connection with this woman who has just dropped out of anxiety for the first time in her life. And she was just like, it was like 10 years fell from her face. But she was brave. She was really brave. And that's what I feel really honored that people trust, and they'll actually, do what I'm suggesting they do. And sometimes it takes a little coaching, and sometimes we go slower, and sometimes we go faster, because she was like really holding back. But other people just want to come in and pat the horse. And, and I just say, well, hang on a minute. Do you just walk up to a stranger you've never met and go, hi, how are you? Let me rub my hands all over you.
There's some out there that do that.
And so, I think we also need to acknowledge that horses, they have their own space. They have their own law, and we need to acknowledge that law and be invited into their space. And that's where the magic happens. When they invite us in, And sometimes you take a step and the horse sort of, we work on horse time. It doesn't work on human time. It can take 2 to 3 minutes before the horse maybe just goes and shifts that much, and then it's like a step, and so it can take, up to 10 minutes to actually get through that. Let's meet the horse. And it's fascinating. And the people watching on the veranda are just like, I just could not believe what happened. I saw the change. We look for the kind eye. We look for the change in the nostrils. I teach all of the body language of the horses, so they're looking for the change in the horse as well. So, yeah, powerful stuff, really powerful stuff. And I think the other one was, she was an actress. And I didn't know she was an actress. She worked on stage, so I didn't know that she, sort of worked there. Because often I don't know who's coming in. I just know their first name. I don't know their background. It's actually better if I don't know their background, because I'd rather read what the horses are telling me. And she just deeply connected immediately to one horse. And my sense was, this is just really fascinating. So I introduced her to the other horse, and that one happened really quickly. And so I just, she ended up with both horses, one on each shoulder, just following her all the way around the paddock, just through her breath in and her breath out. And I got to the end of it. And I said, I don't know what you do, but you're really, really powerful.
Wow.
And I hope that you never second guess yourself. And she burst into tears, and she just said, oh my God, every time I go on stage, I panic. And I said, well, the horses have just told you that that's just a story you're telling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Change that story. So that was really, really beautiful. That was the most powerful I think I've seen. And one of them was a herd leader, and like he's no pushover, he's like, you get yourself together and stand in your power. Otherwise, go and work with somebody else.
Clearly she had some really great presence.
Really great presence. Yeah. And she was fun. She was really fun. Yeah.
How beautiful.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Well, in preparing for our chat today, I did a bit of research around how equine therapy is used for various conditions, and in particular, there were some randomised trials done around PTSD. Have you done any work around equine-assisted services that can help with this?
I haven't. I feel, like maybe accidentally, but not intentionally.
Yeah.
So often I'll find out through the session that somebody has PTSD, but they haven't come to the session looking for solution through PTSD. It's just arisen as part of the session. And as I said earlier, I'll allow emotion. So I always say that, our body vibrates to dissipate energy when we have these biochemical responses, and adrenaline and cortisol are very, very powerful hormones, stress hormones designed to make us run and fight freaking, to save our life. So when that happens, we're supposed to run and fight, but often we don't. We just shut it down. So if we cough, our body vibrates. When we laugh, our body vibrates. When we cry, it's our body vibrates. And when we really sob, but then when we get to the end and we go, we activate parasympathetic nervous system. So it's our body's natural way of dissipating the biochemical recipes that have gone through into our bloodstream. So I support that process. And often when somebody goes through that process, and at the end of it, they might say, I have PTSD. And I've never actually quite felt, that before. So I didn't intentionally do that, but it just came up as part of the session. I do know there's some wonderful work being done with people in the States. That's probably where you got your research from. Yeah. There's some really beautiful research there. And I was very, very fascinated with a correctional center in the States, in Arizona, that had a horse program where they were bringing in the wild horses out on the plains because they've become a problem, and they're bringing them in and corralling them, and then they're taking prisoners who want to be a part of this, and they're saying, we will teach you how to gentle a horse, but through that process you have to gentle yourself. So they're acting like a mirror. So the horse, the person who's been through the trauma, who is in the correctional center, recognizes that the horse is feeling what they felt in their life. And so they have to deal with it themselves before they can actually help the horse deal with it. And then they eventually come together. And the success stories, I mean, there's actually something, I think it's on Netflix, that shows this. It's like 6 episodes. It's just the most beautiful thing. But it's not easy either. I mean, there's wild horses, and these horses go hard at these people who are used to people coming hard at them, but they can't fight back to the horse. They've got to stand in their power and have boundaries, and soften, but they also have to be in their power. And you see horses striking and kicking and doing all sorts of things, and these people just, working through it, and it's just phenomenal.
And I would think that they would be so used to having to be in defense mode all the time as well, because of their environment and perhaps what they've gone through in their life, or previous gang life, or whatever it might be that actually led them to landing in prison. So when you're in that defense mode and flight mode, and you constantly have to be on all the time, well, no wonder the horses would be like, whoa, dude,
and so there's this perfect mirror. So when you change something in the human, the horse starts to trust respect. The human starts to trust respect. The horse starts to trust respect. And then what they actually do is they then have to make the decision under the guidance of the horse, obviously the guy who's in charge of the whole program, who's an amazing horseman, whether this horse is suitable to be sold as a fully trained horse. So they then have to take that responsibility. Is this horse safe to go out into the community for a child to ride or for an adult to ride? It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
I can't, off the top of my head, I just can't remember what it is. But if I find it, I'll go and find it, and I'll text you, and you might want to share it with you.
Yeah, we can put it in the show notes for sure if people want to check that out.
Horses helping humans on so many levels. So if you take that extreme situation and you bring it into the therapy paddock, you've got versions of that happening all the time. I don't feel enough. The horse doesn't like it. The first response is the horse walks away. The horse doesn't like me, or the horse doesn't want to be with me. It's always about me. And it's like, what if it's nothing about you? What if it's about the way you're feeling and the horse is wanting you to change that? What would that look like? How could we change that? And then when they change that and the horse comes in, they realise that was just a story they were telling themselves.
And what about with people suffering from addiction? Is this type of therapy helpful to people who suffer from addiction?
One of my friends, he specialises in this and addiction, and he has really fantastic responses, because generally, addiction is from deep wounds. And so it is the deep wounds that we have not been able to deal with through life, or haven't had the opportunity, or we haven't recognised it. So we haven't actually processed it. And the only way to mask or deal with those deep wounds is to self-medicate in some way. And addiction comes in many forms: work, exercise. It's not just drugs and alcohol. Sex, all sorts of things, so we mask and we don't know how to deal with it. I sort of love the Buddhist philosophy that pain is inevitable in life, but suffering is optional.
Yeah.
So if we can learn how to deal with the pain, we don't have to suffer.
Yeah, it's
and
a
I
choice.
think that's where equine therapy is really powerful, because the horses never lie, and it is what it is. No one gets offended by the horse. They're just like, okay, the horse is telling me the truth. Because, we use words and language to mask how we're really feeling. We put up a front, we put up a mask, and horses are like, yeah, I see right through that.
Well, I think to your point, though, it's funny how people might not get offended by a horse telling you straight what's going on with you, as opposed to a friend or some other type of therapy, like talk therapy as an example. I mean, you can go to talk therapy for years and years and years and might not necessarily have as much progress as you might with equine therapy, perhaps, because of the fact that it's just, I don't know, I think it would be a gentler way, but also quite confronting as well, in terms of that you get that real strong aha moment, because you've got this other live creature really mirroring back at you.
Yeah, And where it really starts is connection to self.
Yes.
Because once you connect to self, then you can dive a lot deeper. But until you connect to self, you're generally projecting unmanaged emotions out. And you're not seeing that because you're not aware. So that connection to self brings in that deeper awareness. That horse sees me for who I am. And the horse is telling me I'm actually a lot more powerful than what I'm telling myself. So I'm playing small and the horse is telling me that I don't need to. I feel good, So that's
How empowering is that?
It's so empowering, so empowering. I love doing it with leaders. Sometimes you'll have like a CEO type person who comes in and, tries to make the horse do things. And the horse is just, they're just like the horse.
How did that go?
No, not doing it. Because, how do you make 500 kilos do something? Yeah, no, you can't, you've got to connect. And the way that my horses work is that, you can come in and try and bully me, but, I just won't move. And I'll just, until you actually change something in you, I will just not do what you want me to do because you need to work in partnership with me. You need to connect and be my partner. But you also need to be the leader. A calm, confident leader that I can trust and respect. And then I'll do anything with you. I will do anything with you.
It's so cool. I just love the fact that you can get people to that point by having this connection.
Yeah.
We've touched a little bit on cortisol and impact on health. And look, you are one of Australia's leading pioneers in the health and wellness industry and have so much experience in health and wellness space. Give us a bit of an outline as to why it's so important to get on top of stress, anxiety, high cortisol levels. Why is it so important for our overall health to do this type of work?
The flight and fight system is our survival system. And as humans, we're only supposed to be turning that on when our life is threatened. And the biochemicals of that system are, the formula for that, it's like baking a cake. If you want to feel angry, the only way you can feel angry is if you've got cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. If you want to feel happy, then the ingredients you need for that are, oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. So depending on the ingredients of the biochemicals in your bloodstream will depend on how you feel, but also those ingredients have major impact on your health and well-being. So they say the biochemicals of resentment and hatred and revenge are so bad for us. It's like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. So we literally, when we're in a soup of biochemicals where we're literally running from a tiger because somebody has just sent us an email that we don't like the look of, or someone's just taken our car park, or somebody has, done something that's hurt us. And again, hurt is inevitable, but suffering is different. When we have these biochemicals in our body for too long, they are the greatest disruptor of everything. You cannot green smoothie your way out of stress. You cannot exercise your way out of it. You can dissipate some of it, but unless you go to parasympathetic nervous system, which is our healing response, which is where all of our rest and digest, we can't digest our food, we can't absorb our food, we can't sleep properly, we can't do anything, any kind of repair unless we have no stress hormones or the literal amount that we need just for our circadian rhythm. So we have to go to parasympathetic. If we don't, it's at our peril. It's the greatest disruptor of hormonal balance, fertility. It's the greatest disruptor of longevity, which is what I said earlier. You can biohack all you want, but if you have these high levels of stress hormones, they're going to unpack because our body's not designed to be running and fighting all the time. Yeah. We're supposed to turn it on and turn it off, and we just don't turn it off, and that's our problem. We can turn it on. We need to turn it off. So they will unpack everything because the priority system in the human body is survival. Yeah. So the moment any thought, perception in the mind creates the brain to believe that there is, because the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined, right? You can think of a lemon and you can salivate but not have a lemon anywhere near you. So, visualization is really powerful. So the moment the brain goes into the choice it makes Do I activate the sympathetic or the parasympathetic nervous system? Am I safe or is there a threat? The moment we live in threat most of the time, then we've got these super biochemicals. There is no healing. There is no recovery. There is no way the body can repair. There is no way that we can sustain. Sleep is critical, and it is a pandemic of insomnia. So in some ways, I'm, such a big believer that we start there first and then we build from there, because that to me is the foundation. Even if you eat organic, even if you eat organic food, if you can't absorb it,
Yeah, that's it. I'm often asked, what is my number one biohack? And I always say sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep 100%. Is the most important thing we've got to get right first.
100%.
And I say that because I was such a bad sleeper.
Yes.
For so long.
Yeah. And, you have high levels of cortisol elevated because you've had lots of adrenaline loops. And so your normal cortisol level, which is, as you know, beautiful when it's normal it's the natural circadian rhythm, it does beautiful things. But the moment it goes elevated and it's inappropriate elevation, it becomes catabolic and it unpacks everything.
Yeah.
Menopause is everywhere at the moment, and we've just finished writing our book on hormonal balance. And, here's the thing, you can't have hormonal balance when you've got high levels of cortisol. It's just not going to happen. You can't sleep when you've got high levels of cortisol. It's not going to happen, So.
For sure. I actually felt like I had a reverse cortisol imbalance in because my cortisol levels would go through the roof in the evening. I'd be like trying to wind down and I'd go to sleep, and the minute I close my eyes, my mind would go bing, and I'd be like, oh, I've got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. And I just keep getting more and more anxious, and my cortisol levels, I could just literally feel it going up. And I'm like, I need to get on top of this. And so I did a lot of work to turn that around, and I'm on top of it now. But
good on you for saying that's your number one biohack, because it certainly is.
Yeah.
It certainly is. It's so important. So, so, so important.
Well, I think we just get caught up in life so much that we forget to switch off. We forget to just stop and consciously think, oh, hang on a minute, have I been on the go all day? Have I actually taken any time out to take a breath, right? To go outside and just get some sunlight or put my feet on the grass and ground myself? Have I actually done anything for myself in that way? I think a lot of people will just be constantly on from the minute they get up, go to work, race through traffic, get the kids dropped off, work, meetings all day, doing the in-house battles in the office environment. Then you got to go pick up the kids and get home and get dinner on. And you probably don't even think about, for women in particular, I don't think we even think about ourselves until, I don't know, maybe it's time to go and brush my teeth to go to sleep at night.
And then you hope your body is going to go, okay, yes, I'm ready to sleep now.
Yeah.
And it just isn't. And it's outside of the horse paddock, I do seminars, lots of different things, but I talk about micro moments. And there's so many micro moments that you can actually take, as you say, just take a breath,
Yeah.
And I talk about those moments in life where you get to the traffic light and it's red and you're thinking, oh, God, I'm in a hurry, I need to go. It's a red light that gives you an opportunity to go, this is my signal to actually drop into my parasympathetic nervous system right now. I cannot control this traffic light, but I can control how I breathe right now. Mm-hmm. And I hit roadworks, and, I used to be incredibly judgmental, like, are you kidding me? Who would put roadworks here at this particular time? Who in their right mind? And what's that person doing over there, But that's a moment that you go, I have no control in this moment. I can actually activate my parasympathetic nervous system, and I can literally just stop. Just completely and utterly stop in this moment and not do this anymore. I cannot believe. So there are moments, when you're washing up, when you're cleaning your teeth, when you're in the shower. There's all these moments and intervals, micro moments and intervals where you can actually do it. You can take 10 minutes out of your day instead of doing this, where we're actually training our monkey mind. Our monkey mind, we train with distraction. So I think sometimes we forget, and if I may, that this is a tool.
Yes.
It's a very handy tool. It's a very important tool. It's very something. But we humans have been making tools for since our inception. We started with sticks, then fire, and then wheels, and then we made machines. And this one, though, has a dopamine addiction to it. And it does this. You look anywhere, people cannot sit without scrolling. We need to just switch off and just not pick the tool up and just go, this is 5 minutes and I'm just going to sit and be and breathe.
It does my head in. I have this rule that when my family goes out to dinner, or friends even, that the first person that picks up their phone has to pay for the bill.
I love it. There needs to be boundaries and things. Yes, we need them, but we also, need to put them down.
Yeah. It might sound judgmental, but it does do my head a little bit. I often see my husband always sitting down in front of the TV at night, and he's on the phone as well and scrolling through the phone. And I'm like, put the phone down. What are you doing? Don't you realise what you're doing to your melatonin levels? And get those blue blocker glasses on.
Exactly. Yeah. And then at some point you have to go, he's not my project.
That's it. Exactly.
It's his own project.
Don't, Azra, don't. Just stop. Just let him do it.
I think it lands us in a place that I think, from my perspective, what I share is we all have a radical responsibility to connect with ourselves and to do whatever we need to do for ourselves so we can be the healthiest and the best in our life. Working in health retreats, the amount of women that have said to me over the years, oh gosh, I feel so guilty being here. This is the first time that I've been away from my family, or, that I have never spent this much money on myself. And I just, and do you know how many men I've heard say that? And that's not a judgmental thing. I love that men don't think that, but women I call it the burnt chop syndrome, or the broken egg syndrome. When we're cooking for people, we'll always give ourselves it's really, we don't look after ourselves enough. And self-care is the most wonderful gift you can give to your family.
For sure.
Because then they don't need to worry about you.
Yeah. Well, you can't, I often say you can't be there for your family if you are unhealthy. Look after yourself first, and then you can be there for your family. We had at our Live Well Longer retreat that we hosted in Bali, we had one lady that turned up, and the moment she arrived, she burst into tears because, bless her, because her mother-in-law had just had, I think it was a heart attack. And she was very stressed about the fact that as the matriarch of the family, that she wasn't there to prop everybody up and look after everyone and make sure that she was organising everything. And did everybody have all the food? And was, the mother-in-law getting the care that she needed to get, and so on. And we just said to her, look, you're here now. Your family will be okay, And she's like, look, I know that Mum's okay. She's in hospital. She's getting the treatment that she's needing. I'm like, okay, that's great. So let's look after you now, and you look after you, and then when you get back home, then you can be there for your family.
And that's so beautiful, and such a beautiful thing that you did for her. It's so important that we remind each other to do that. Sorry, I interrupted you. Please keep going.
No. It was just, she took that on board, credit to her. Yeah. And she did the work, which was fantastic. And she was ready and right to go to get on that plane to get home and be there for her family and take charge again, which was great. So
I always think that, whenever I go to that mode where I think, well, all I'm doing is enabling them to be more passive in their life. In actual fact, I'm not always going to be around. So I need to help them to step up and learn. And also, as women, we need to learn how to receive, because what comes up a lot in the horse paddock actually is, so how well do you receive? What do you mean receive? Or do you like people helping you? Oh, no, I'd rather help other people, And
we're such givers.
Such givers. And then a wise woman told me, because I am a 100% diagnosed and recovering people pleaser, right? Health retreats, 30 years, come on. So a wise woman said to me many, many years ago, when you don't receive, you don't give someone the gift of being able to feel what it feels like to give.
Yes.
So receive is actually giving them a gift, because you're making them feel good about helping you.
Yeah. I think women struggle with receiving because you have to be vulnerable to receive.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of women, I feel, and I count myself in this assessment, is that a lot of women feel that you have to be on all the time. You have to be the one that's guarding your family. You have to be the one that's looking after and nurturing your family and so on. But like you have so beautifully outlined today, you have to take the time out for yourself, and you have to give to yourself and be able to really take care of yourself. There's been some studies measuring biometrics in the equine therapy space that I found. What are your thoughts about that, like heart rate variability, and we've talked about cortisol and oxytocin as well. Do you think that that's powerful data that might be able to get some people who might be cynical about this type of therapy to get them across the line if they can actually see real hard data and the changes that happens to their body?
I think the Heart Math program, they do a lot of work in that area where they'll have people going into an arena or a paddock with just humans and just asking humans to take a chair and sit, and there's just horses just in the area, and the horses are doing their own thing. And then they'll work with the synchronization where somebody is coherent between brain and heart. So in that coherence, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where the electromagnetic field changes in frequency. So the frequency of frustration and anger is like that, if you look at it, whereas the frequency of, connection and thankfulness and gratitude is more like that. And so that gives off the field. And what they'll find is the horses, when the person is wearing the wearable and they're doing the breath work, they're doing the coherence work, not only do they get it on the watch, but they'll get it with the horse coming and blowing in their ear or nuzzling their back. So I think there's always going to be skeptics, and I truly believe that, when you're ready, you'll explore. And I will tell a quick story if we've got time, and that was...
Yeah, for sure.
many, many years ago, and this is before I was actually in the equine therapy. I was still general manager at Quingana. And I had lunch with these two guests, and they were two barristers.
Okay.
And I said,
I'm anticipating where this story is going. You've got me very curious now.
And I said, so, what have you enjoyed the most? And they kind of looked at each other and they said, equine therapy. And I said, oh, that's interesting. What made you choose equine therapy? And they said, well, okay. So, and they looked at each other and one of them said, all right, I'm just going to be straight up front. We looked at the menu and we thought we were going to choose the most bullshit thing on the menu. And they said, it's impacted us so much that we are going to, come back and do it again. And I saw them a couple of years later and I inquired and I said, did you do it? And they said, not only did we do it, it changes the way that we operate in the courtroom.
Oh, I love
we
that.
Use our body language differently. We use our breath differently. We use everything differently because obviously we need to be the leader in that sense that everyone goes, I trust that person. I feel connected with that person. So it changed the way that they were doing it. But, yeah, they chose it because it was the most bullshit thing on the menu.
Little did they know. Rookies.
It's a gorgeous story.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I think that's just such a beautiful story. I wonder whether it actually also helped them be a bit more, empathetic. Obviously, that they're there to, ensure that people are abiding by the law and so on. But I wonder whether there was a greater degree of empathy from them.
Interesting. That's an interesting question. I think probably the biggest thing that people get is the impact of breath, how much the horses respond to the pace, the depth and the rhythm of breath. And when you want a horse to walk with you without a halter or without, a rope, and you're just asking the horse to come with you, our horses are trained that if you step into your power and you breathe in and you elevate your body language and you intention, we haven't even talked about intention, but there's a big part of this, it's about intention, that I believe the horse is going to come with me and I intend that we're going to do this together, that the horse will come with them. And when they breathe out and they relax and stop, the horse will stop with them. So I think that's, I'm sure they got empathy and all sorts of things, but I think what they got was the that they never realized how important breath was to commanding a room.
Well, I don't think I've ever thought about it that way either, to be honest, that's really powerful. That's a really powerful tool for leaders to learn and to take away, because they can change the energy of a room purely through breath work, right?
Because when you're with the horse, when you're deep breathing and you're activating parasympathetic nerves in the lower lobes of the lungs, you're in your parasympathetic nervous system. But then part of this, the therapy is, now that you've relaxed and you've connected with the horse, now you've got to get things done in life, right? So how do you turn the volume up on your energy in a way that you get that right amount of biochemistry that you need, and your posture and your breath, that the horse will be activated to come with you?
Yeah.
Because whatever changes in you changes in the horse.
Yeah.
So when you ride, think about it.
Oh, for sure.
How many times have you thought trot and the horse has started trotting before you've even given an aid,
So many times.
and if you could, my horse that I don't ride anymore, but I could ride him without a bridle in an arena, and I could just breathe out and he would just stop.
Yeah.
So that they connect deeply to our breath, but we connect to each other through our breath as well.
We do.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about when I ride as well. There was one boy that I was riding for the first time, and I was trying to get him into the canter.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to keep trotting faster. And then I realised it was because I wasn't breathing.
Yes.
And then as soon as I started breathing again, that's when he gave me the canter. That's when he offered it up.
So a lot of horse riding lessons don't teach you about breath and connection, and that's where I pulled it together. Angie talked about it, about, deeply connecting with the horse and becoming soft and those sorts of things. I just used biochemistry and thought about it from a physiological perspective that she doesn't necessarily, I think she would understand it, but she doesn't relate to it that way. She relates to it differently. We talked about her, earlier, Angie Wicks being a mentor for me in this space of working with horses on that level of natural horsemanship, which just, sort of led to the path into doing equine therapy. With bolting on what I was doing with that. Yeah.
Such amazing work. Do you notice much of a difference between how adults or compared to children respond to equine therapy?
I haven't done a lot of work with children. I've done a little bit because where my horses live is at Gwangana. I have two at home and I have one at Gwangana. And so most of the equine therapy work I do is at Gwangana. But then I've done work with children of friends of mine, and it's the same process. I had a situation with a friend of mine, very sad, living in a domestic violence situation. Mum escaped. Child was, obviously living in sympathetic most of the time and not able to sleep and very nervous. And so when she first started working with a pony, she was trying to control the pony because that's the only thing that she really knew. How do I control life, Yeah. But the moment she actually shifted and changed and came into her breath and her relaxation and the pony came in, it was just such a special moment. So I think it all kind of works the same way. I don't think it's magic. I think it's actually just connecting with the horse on their way of communicating and relating to the world. And they remind us that we don't do it enough. And they help us to find that centre. So they're teachers of presence.
Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah.
Sure are. For those that haven't done this type of therapy before or aren't sure whether it's right for them, what would your advice be?
I think, just if I may touch, there's lots of different kinds of equine therapy that you can find around the place. I think finding the right therapist for you is really important. So I would find it hard to go and work with other people's horses. And often people say, can you bring your horses and do equine therapy here? But the horses need to feel 100% safe in that environment to be able to engage. Otherwise, they're like, okay, new place. What do I need to pay attention to? They need to be 100% present and feel safe in their environment. So that's, that doesn't work so well. Although I've seen incredible videos of horses going into hospitals and connecting with patients in beds, which just makes me cry.
I know, me too.
Makes me
I'm a
cry.
blubbering
I'm
mess.
like, oh my goodness, Yeah, it's just extraordinary. And nursing homes and things like that.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
So I think finding the right person, but also being aware that sometimes it can get a little esoteric. And what I mean by that is, like, a butterfly lands on the horse's nose, and the therapist goes, that's a sign. It's probably your ancient ancestor trying to connect with you. I would, if a butterfly landed on a horse's nose and the person said, oh, look, there's a butterfly on the horse's nose, I'd say, yeah, that's interesting. What do you think that means? Yeah. So just watch out for the wishy-washy.
Yeah.
To sort of, I'm going to tell you what's happening here rather than you helping yourself, me guiding you through questions and support for you to find out what's happening to you, which is true therapy, right?
Yeah.
A therapist doesn't tell you what to do or how to live your life. They help you find the answers in your own path, in your own life that's going to work for you. Mm. Yeah.
I have a tradition on the podcast where I ask everybody one last question. Is that a hard one? What does it mean to you to live well longer?
Love. That's it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think living well longer is for me to feel love in every moment that I have in my life. And love to me is so much more than a romantic notion. It's loyalty, it's trust, it's respect, it's listening, it's patience, it's connection. It's all of those things that we are when we're in our very, very, very best human, sense of self, where we're not in the flight and fight response. And if we can learn to regulate that, we feel love and joy and happiness. And that allows me, when I feel that, if I've got that within me and I have that connection to myself, because I truly believe that the relationship I have with myself is the most important relationship I'm in, then I can have deeper and more caring and more empathetic and compassionate relationships with everyone in my life and everyone that I work with in my life. So I think for me it's love.
Just beautiful. Such wise words. Sharon Kolkka, thank you so much for all the work that you have done for so many people for so many years. It's just been an absolute delight to have you on the podcast today and to talk all things horses.
I feel so blessed and so honoured. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's just been a joy. And you and I have just found out we don't live too far away from each other.
No, we don't. So we're going to stay connected for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm going to take you up and come down and do that equine therapy with you for sure.
Right. And to all of your listeners out there, live well and love more.
Yeah. Thanks, Sharon. Well, that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And if you'd like to learn more about biohacking, go ahead and sign up on my website at www.biohack-her.com to get a free copy of my 5 top biohacks to get you kick-started. While you're there, you can also check out my blog page for more tips on biohacking. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can do so on Apple, Spotify, and Google Play. Let us know if there's anyone you'd like us to talk to in particular, and we'll endeavour to get them on the podcast. Until next time, remember to live well longer.